Welcome, everybody, to the Friday edition of the Freedom Link here on the Orion Talk Radio Network. I'm Joe Joseph, along with Tim Watts and John King. Boys, how we doing this evening?
Hey, Joey.
Hey, buddy.
Hi, guys.
Uncle John. Well, a lot to talk about tonight. Some pretty disturbing stuff happening out of Ohio. This is initially reported by WSAZ News Channel 3, and Infowars.com reported on this also. Drill characterizes disgruntled Second Amendment advocates as terrorists. Boys are starting the narrative.
Holy cow.
Yeah, it's not good. And again, you know, the true source of this is WSAZ News Channel 3, so this isn't fear-mongering. This is just reporting on what went down. It says a safety exercise involving police, National Guard, and emergency management officials in Portsmouth, Ohio, was centered around the premise that individuals, quote, disgruntled over the government's interpretation of the Second Amendment, plotted to use weapons of mass destruction to terrorize a local community. The exercise, which took place yesterday, was run by the Ohio Army National Guard, 52nd Civil Support Unit, Scioto County, first responders, as well as local law enforcement. Quote, the make-believe scenario is timely, reports WSAZ News Channel 3. Two school employees who are disgruntled over the government's interpretation of the Second Amendment plots to use chemical, biological, and radiological agents against members of the local community. The drill revolved around the scenario of the two pro-Second Amendment advocates killing a teacher before setting up a chemical lab to develop weapons of mass destruction. I mean, because that's what people do, right? That's what people, especially gun owners that are pro-Second Amendment, that's what we do, is we look to do that. You know what, guys? I think next week I'm going to start a meth lab up just because I like guns and I believe in exercising my Second Amendment right.
Absolutely ridiculous.
I mean, is that not the most absurd crap? John, what do you think, buddy?
I think it's utterly ridiculous that we're even sitting here having this conversation, Joe. This is, or I believe it still is, the United States of America.
Yeah, well,
and the fact that we've spent a week and a half, 2 weeks talking about gun control and having these debates is just absolutely ludicrous that the people haven't exactly stood up and told their congressman to go straight to hell.
Yeah. Portsmouth Fire Chief Bill Rayson said the exercise was necessary due to the threat of domestic terrorism. Since when does a fire chief understand the threat of domestic terrorism? I mean, isn't your job to put out fires and, you know, investigate arson? Since when did you get into national security?
Yeah.
Quote, most people think it's not very likely, but we forget that there's a lot of domestic terrorism. Oh, really? Name it. Tell me. I'm going to try and get this guy on the show. I'm serious. I want to know what he's talking about.
Oh, yeah. You know, domestic terrorism, where?
Where? Where's all the domestic terrorism? I mean, I fear for my life every time I go out the door. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah, and then just like Ange just pointed out, says, you know, prove that it wasn't government staged or set up by the FBI. All these patsies that get caught. Why? The Times Square, this guy was going to light a bomb off. Well, how'd he get it? Oh, the FBI gave it to him.
Yeah.
Oh, well, how'd he figure out how to make it? Oh, the FBI told him how to make it. Well, who motivated him to do it? Oh, the FBI was pumping him up, baby, pumping him up. The guy was basically like, you know, just an average old schmuckatelli. Yeah. Yeah, it's a drill. Oh, my goodness. The portrayal of pro-Second Amendment advocates as violent terrorists is sure to raise eyebrows amidst a national debate about gun control following the Sandy Hook school massacre. However, a 2009 New York Times report detailed how Homeland Security was training Boy Scouts to take on, disarm disgruntled veterans who are described as terrorists. There it is again. Remember last night, Tim?
Yep.
We were talking about that, too. One of the first groups, folks, they're going to vilify is the vets because that is their biggest threat. We are trained to handle this kind of stuff. And they don't want us in the way. So understand that that is also coming down the pipe. In March 2009, the infamous Mayak report, leaked by two concerned Missouri police officers. The report listed Ron Paul supporters, libertarians, people who display bumper stickers, people who own gold, or even people who fly a U.S. flag, and equates them with radical race hate groups and terrorists. I mean, I'm having a little issue with this here, boys.
Yeah.
I mean, do you not see the narrative here? I mean, this is crazy. This is, folks, if you can't see that they're setting this up, I mean, I don't know how else to lay it out for you. How about this? How about this, Tim? New York mayor warns of Waco-style standoff over gun control laws.
Bloomberg, really?
No, not Bloomberg.
Oh, who's this?
Let's listen in.
All right, Jamie, thank you. As New York gun owners still digest the new regulations under the SAFE Act, the Gloversville mayor says he has his own concerns. Although the law is meant to reduce gun violence, Mayor King thinks it will have the opposite effect.
Most people are law-abiding citizens and may go ahead and sell those or turn those over, but you're going to have a faction of people that are going to take a stand. And I can just predict a Waco-style standoff in some rural area, and it's not going to end well.
We'll hear more of what he has to say coming up tonight at 10.
Yeah. You know what? I have to say, he's probably right in some aspects. Let me say where he's not right. I don't think it's going to be some rural area. Yeah, it may happen in some rural area, but I got news for you. People are pissed.
Oh, I think that's what they'll pick. They'll choose their target, Joe. I think because they'll want to make an example for the rest of the lemmings that watch, you know, that 1/3 we talk about that are plugged into the tube. They'll pick a rural area like yours or mine, you know, and pick on us. And then, you know, use that as the example because there's no witnesses out here. They can cordon off the road. People can't come down. They can't see what's going on. They'll only get their view from the helicopter, from the pictures they provide. If it's in an urban environment, there will be people to witness it. So I think the first shots will be fired in the rural areas in order, you know, to prop up their story.
Yep. I don't know. I'm at a loss because on the one hand, I say to myself, where's the outrage? And on the other hand, you know, people are pissed. I think a lot of people are preparing, hence the reason why when I went to the store this evening and went to the ammo department, you know, where they sell the ammo and all that stuff, nothing. People are even buying the off-brand stuff. As a matter of fact, when I was there, somebody was buying, I want to say, like 7mm. Very, very, very uncommon rifle round. So I'm like, wow. You got one of those? Nope. Barter. Oh. So you never know. Never know when somebody's going to need it. And I can't get anything else.
Really?
Yeah, so maybe I can trade it.
Wow.
So I think that people, in a way, are preparing themselves for what's coming. You know, like I said, the American people aren't stupid. I really, truly think that they're just uninformed and or ignorant and or misinformed. But in the long run, I mean, they see the writing on the wall here. They know what's going on and what direction we're moving in. And I have to think that a good portion of the American people are pissed. I mean, John, where you live, what's it like? What's it like in your area?
For
¿Por qué? No, for I mean the atmosphere.
Many of the people around me, Joe, are asleep. I'm trying my best to wake them up, but once they do wake up, that proverbial light bulb goes off, and they wonder what to do, and I try to guide them into beans, bullets, and toilet paper and tampons as fast as we possibly can. As far as I know, there's not too many people out here that are preparing.
Yeah. Well, in a lot of areas, especially now more than ever, we have a lot of people living below the poverty line. And how hard is it, Tim, for people living below the poverty line right now, not only just to live every day, but I mean to prepare for anything.
Yeah, there is no chance. These folks, they're going to hurt, really bad, the folks that haven't prepared. So a good point, Joe. If you don't have cash, you can't prepare.
It's tough. I mean, like I said, these days, even buying a bag of beans with your groceries is tough because you're stretched to the limit. So, I mean, this does not bode well at all. But like I said, I'm encouraged, at least in my area. I'm seeing a lot of people. And, of course, now I live in a more rural area. And people in a rural area typically have more of a mindset towards preparation because, in event of a catastrophe, heck, it takes us a week and a half to get our power back. It's 20 miles to the nearest major store. So, I mean, you tend to have to plan for things when you do that, But like I said, I don't think that the rural area will probably be the way they try to frame some of the wackos. But I truly think if they go off the deep end, that it's not going to be isolated to rural areas. I just don't. And we'll get into that a little bit more because later on in the broadcast, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how the government is going to raid the federal pension funds to be able to keep government going and what that means. Because that's a very, very, very slippery slope to go down. Not that they haven't done it in the past. The dynamic now is different than it was before. And we'll discuss that as well as we progress. Now, guys, Ben Swann did a reality check, an apples-to-apples comparison of the U.S. and U.K. violent crime rates. And you might be interested to hear what Ben has to say because, yet again, here's more statistics to show that there is indeed an agenda to take your guns away, and it's not based on fact.
Well, it is a reality check that has received attention from literally all over the nation. Ben's fact check of arguments made by CNN host Piers Morgan and a look at the violent crime rates in the U.S. and in the U.K. But were those numbers really an apples-to-apples comparison? Tonight's Ben is setting the record straight. It's a reality check you won't see anywhere else.
Well, last week we took a look at arguments by CNN host Piers Morgan that a lack of guns in the UK have made it safer than the United States. Among the issues we looked at, a comparison of the violent crime rates between the UK and the US. Well, shortly after that reality check aired, I received messages from people living in Britain who told me those numbers were not entirely accurate because the violent crime rate in the UK is figured very differently than it is in the US. A couple of blogs made the same claim, and it turns out they are correct. The FBI's Uniform Crime Reports defines a violent crime as one of 4 specific offenses: murder, manslaughter, forcible rape, robbery, and aggravated assault. The British Home Office has a substantially different definition of violent crime. The British definition includes all crimes against the person, including simple assaults, all robberies, and all sexual offenses. Due to fundamental differences in how crime is recorded and categorized, it is impossible to compute exactly what the British violent crime rate would be if it were calculated the way the FBI does. But if we must compare the two, my best estimate would be something like 776 violent crimes per 100,000 people, writes the skeptical libertarian. So when you break down the apples-to-apples comparison of violent crime rates between the U.S. and Britain, in 2010, the U.S. had 403 incidents per 100,000 people. The violent crime rate in Britain, while difficult to pin down, is at least 776 per 100,000 people. It's still nearly twice the rate as the U.S., but let's face it, the argument over guns in the U.S. is over guns in the U.S. And if the argument over guns is to be intellectually honest, then why is everyone talking about these so-called assault rifles? The argument has been made that the last 4 mass shootings have been with assault rifles. Therefore, a ban on assault rifles is necessary. But according to a report by Mother Jones, since 1982, there have been at least 62 mass shootings in 30 states. Of the 142 guns possessed by the killers, more than 3/4 were obtained legally. The largest number of guns used, 68, were semi-automatic handguns. Assault rifles were about half that number at 35. So when the argument is made that the way to protect children is to ban assault rifles and high-capacity magazines, statistically, that number does not hold up. According to FBI numbers, in 2011, among those murdered by guns, 119 children ages 12 or younger. The vast majority killed with handguns. That's nearly equivalent to 6 Newtown mass shootings. So what this means to you is that while we all mourn for the families of those children who were killed in Newtown, we mourn no less for the families of the child killed in a drive-by shooting in Kansas City or the child caught in a gang shooting crossfire in Chicago. For those who are pro-gun control, why not go after handguns instead of assault rifles? Because according to the numbers, fewer handguns might actually mean one more child being saved, as the president said today, is the focus. For people like Piers Morgan, who says he's not calling for a handgun ban, is it fair to ask, why not? And that is Reality Check.
You can find the sources for this story posted on our website, fox19.com. And if you'd like to make...
How do you like that, boys? More truth coming at you via Ben Swann. And he's right. Yeah. If they are going to try and ban anything, why don't you ban the thing that makes sense when you start talking about the type of gun that you want to ban? That doesn't even hold up, you know? Not that I'm in favor of any sort of gun ban, you know, but and here's something else, and this is something that I get in an argument quite often when it comes to discussing this, because believe it or not, I mean, you do run into a lot of people that say, well, you know, we got to get the guns off the streets. Okay. Well, then, if you're overweight, should we ban food? I mean, obesity kills more people each year than guns. So why don't we just ban food? Maybe we could do that. How about drowning? Let's ban water. I mean, I know it's extreme, but, you know, let's ban... Yeah, oh, great point. Gravity. We must ban it. Let's ban gravity. You know how many times, John, people fall down and hurt themselves, sometimes serious? I mean, it drives up healthcare costs, so a lot of people die from bad falls.
Joe, you mean help I've fallen and I can't get up?
Yes, I've fallen and I can't get up. That's exactly what I mean. I mean, that it is as asinine as that. You ban guns, it's as asinine as that. And there's no argument that you can make that's going to convince me otherwise, because in this country, and I heard this last night, I heard this sheriff in North Dakota saying that all rights aren't absolute. Oh, really? They're not? Let's ask the founding fathers and see what they say based on their own words. But you'd have to read that first, Sheriff. You know? And that's the thing. People don't realize that. Why? Well, you take religion, you take faith out of society, and guess what? You don't understand that those are our God-given natural rights. Because if there's no God, how does he give them to you?
Yeah.
Interesting, isn't it, Timmy?
It's ridiculous, everything that's going on right now. And, you know, all of the analogies you used, you know, are proper analogies, but I think they're too simple for folks. They go right over their head, you know. They're like, oh, no. You know, everything has to come back to the extreme, to guns. It's, I mean, how many of these crimes have been committed by responsible gun owners? I mean, it seems like responsible gun owners aren't the issue here, but they're making them the issue.
That's right.
You know, the Waco analogy, that one is chilling to me. That one is absolutely chilling. And I think the guy is probably right on as to, you know, how they'll do it. You know, they'll paint a few stories, you know, as here's the extreme that just happened, folks. Oh, it's awful. These people are fighting for their Second Amendment rights and they want to keep their guns. And look what just happened here. And then from there, you know, they'll have the pockets that you know, pop up, you know, in other places, and they'll say, oh, it's copycat, you know, it's, and then it'll just kind of spread. But yeah, that narrative about Waco, I tell you, that raised the hair on the back of my neck, Joey.
Yeah, no, it does. It's chilling. But of course, not unexpected. And I'll bet you that when that does happen, it's a bunch of like-minded veterans that have gone and done that. And why? Because they're the ones that know, okay, well, this is what we have to do. If we want to get out, you know, we don't want to be in a population center, so, you know, we move out. It's those that pay attention. You know, I remember that couple that lived in New Hampshire, I think it was, that had built like a a self-sustaining fortress, if you will, and that's what they call, they hunkered down, because they did not agree with paying taxes. But again, they made their stand, and now they're in jail. However, you have to have more people than just two do it in order for it to have any teeth. And so here again, we're faced with an instance where you can either draw your line in the sand or you can roll over. And I'll tell you what, folks, I'm drawing my line in the sand. I don't know about you, but I'm just done. I've had it. I've had it being pushed around by a government that doesn't even realize that they serve us. We are the boss, right, Timmy?
Yeah. And thinking about the Waco analogy there, that's actually the wrong analogy. I know they're trying to set up the extreme, but what it would be really more akin to is Ruby Ridge.
Ruby Ridge.
Yep.
Absolutely right. Ruby Ridge would be a better analogy. I mean, this is the environment and the days that we live in, folks. And you can turn on the boob tube and you can try and drown it out all you want. It's not going away. It's only going to get worse. You can try to deny it all you want. It's not going away. It's only going to get worse.
Alternative radio.
Your abilities are awesome and may be called upon by concentrating your thought energy with definite purpose.
Folks, don't forget the big march on the state capitals coming up tomorrow, the 19th at 12 noon, your local time. Make your state legislatures know how you feel about illegally restricting our Second Amendment right to bear arms and protect ourselves from a government gone awry. That's tomorrow at 12 noon at your state capital. And I also want to plug this. Connecticut firearms manufacturer Ruger has made it easy for you to petition your local congresspersons and let them know how you feel about the Second Amendment. So please go to the front page of OrionTalkRadio.com today and click on the Ruger banner and go there and fill it out. And it will send a letter to all your congressmen, your governor, the president, the vice president, your attorney general, a whole slew of people in one mouse click. Done. I mean, now's the time, folks. We have to fight this. This isn't something to roll over on. This isn't something to fall back on. This is important. And coming up on Down the Rabbit Hole with Popeye, Popeye's got Dr. Jason Pujo coming on the broadcast to discuss the Second Amendment. Good friend of the Freedom Link, and glad that Popeye's having him on as well. So make sure you stay tuned immediately following us at 10 p.m. Eastern. Dr. Jason Pujo on Down the Rabbit Hole. But without further ado, let's call the King's Court into session. So, John King, please take it away.
Many of you out there wonder how to approach someone you know or a stranger and offer them the proverbial blue and red pill. I think it's much easier to talk to a stranger. Friends and relatives, now, that's a horse of a different color. I generally don't ever say New World Order, as the shame stream media has demonified anyone who would suggest the idea of a global cabal to institute a world government. Most people hear the words global government on the news and think nothing of it. Let's examine this global government idea. This idea of global governments has been around for quite some time. Most people say that this is tinfoil hattery and say that you're the Mad Hatter. The United Nations goal is to head up the emerging global government, an oligarchy of power consolidated to a few wealthy families and run banks and bought politicians. The United Nations, like a spider, has many legs. One leg of the United Nations is called the CFR, or Council of Foreign Relations. This is a global think tank. The membership list includes a who's who of the media, Hollywood, and industry, as well as banking. These are the made men of the criminal elite. The purpose of the CFR is to undermine a country's sovereignty and to cede to a global government. All the members take an oath and agree to serve to achieve their goal of global governments. a global order under one government. The United States is already under its thumb, as President Obama has said that he has asked the United Nations for permission to go to war. The reason you have never heard of any of this is because many of the members of the Council on Foreign Relations are news media members from CNN, ABC, CBS, NBC, and yes, Rupert Murdoch of Fox. So do you seriously think you're going to hear any criminal activity on the news? Isn't it a coincidence that the media as a whole is pushing for this gun control? Most people just regurgitate what they hear by the media because they are too lazy to look up the facts themselves. Didn't Thomas Jefferson say liberty requires vigilance? They are programming your mind to give up your guns. When you are without your guns, you will not have a way to protect yourself. It is your God-given right to self-preservation and protection. Some people even regurgitate the idea that the founders didn't know about semi-automatic and fully automatic weapons, so they should be banned. To them, I say this, as it was said by Thomas Jefferson so many years ago. The people should be well armed and stocked with ammunition and educated in the ways to use them, keeping with the state. For if the state became too powerful, tyranny would follow. What he meant was, if they got it, you should be able to own it. The Second Amendment does not say reserved only to muskets. Once your guns are gone, so will the Constitution and Bill of Rights, as the global Constitution says nothing of freedom of speech or press or the right to bear arms, as most of the world is disarmed. You can't rule armed slaves. You will soon see why they want your guns. You will also soon hear about preppers and survivalists as well as patriots and Ruby Ridge-style murders played out in the media. Just remember, folks, believe only half of what you hear and nothing of what you see. Court adjourned. And for you guys out there, I just want to make this point. The Second Amendment of the Constitution, a well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It seems to me that our founders were extremely wise as they separated the words state and people, as they meant for the people to bear arms as well as the state. And I want to call out onto the carpet the actor Danny Glover, as he recently had said that the reason the Second Amendment was created was to aid slavery. Excuse me, Mr. Glover, you're exactly wrong. The Second Amendment was created to protect the people from a government becoming too tyrannical. It had nothing to do with slavery. As a matter of fact, some slaves in the South had arms. As a matter of fact, some slaves in the South fought for the South. You have no idea what you're talking about. You're talking out your ass. Shut up and learn the truth before you open your pie hole. Joe.
Amen to that, brother. Yeah, and I want to play the clip right now. And I said North Dakota. It's North Carolina, which is absolutely depressing for me. But you know how I told you about the sheriff that said, rights are not absolute? Well, let's listen in.
Met in Wake County to talk passionately about the Second Amendment and their right to bear arms. 3 local sheriffs, including Donnie Harrison, took part in tonight's discussions. Obviously, it's coming just hours after the president unveiled his gun control plans. Fred Shropshire joins us live from Zebulon with more on what was said tonight. Fred?
Good evening, Tisha. Yeah, the Moccasin Creek Minutemen had this meeting planned more than a week ago to talk about gun control, the Second Amendment, and how their local sheriffs feel about this position on this law. But the president's executive order was obviously on everyone's mind. The discussion on this hot topic got heated.
We are not going to sit here and argue with our guests. Ask them questions, but do it Southern style.
The boiling point came about midway.
I don't care how fundamental a right is. No right is absolute.
What?
when dozens inside and dozens more outside of the Fargo Cattle Company steakhouse in Zebulon, about 300 people bristled about a possibility the federal government could violate their Second Amendment rights.
I don't think that was answered correctly or really answered at all.
What we didn't hear is that it doesn't matter what they say, we're not going to come and get your guns.
Actually, what they heard repeatedly from Sheriffs Jerry Jones, Kerry Winders, and Donnie Harrison, respectively, from Franklin, Wayne, and Wake counties was very similar.
I'll quit first, but nobody's going to take your guns.
I don't see any sheriff going house to house taking weapons. Folks, there's more people here than I got deputies, and I can tell you that.
Concern from meeting organizers, the Moccasin Creek Minutemen, and private citizens coincidentally comes the same day as the president's executive order banning assault weapons and toughening background checks.
I don't think it's going to go as far as people think or thinking it will, because let's face it, you're not getting mine. I'm not giving them up. I'm 28 years old. Good luck.
Obviously, a lot of passion there. All of the sheriffs urging the people to take that passion to their lawmakers. The Moccasin Creek Minutemen say they were caught off guard by the interest and the turnout tonight. They say they plan to mobilize that interest further.
What do you guys think about that?
Wow.
Who was the douchebag that says no right is absolute?
Yeah, it was one of the sheriffs there. I'm going to get his name. And Wake County's Donnie Harrison, I think it was.
Please invite him on.
Yeah, we'll have to have a talk with him as well. Now, you may be asking, well, why do they want to take the guns away? And there's a lot of reasons why. The biggest reason right now is the economy. We are at a precipice in this country, and yet again, Mr. Geithner had to write a letter to Speaker Boner. He says, "Dear Mr. Speaker, I'm writing you to notify you, as required under 5 U.S.C. 8438 H2, of my determination that by reason of the statutory debt limit, I will be unable to invest fully the Government Securities Investment Fund or the Federal Employees Retirement System in interest-bearing securities of the United States. Beginning on Tuesday, January 15, 2013, the statute governing G-Fund investments expressly authorizes the Secretary of the Treasury to suspend investment of the G-Fund to avoid breaching the statutory debt limit. Both my predecessors and I have taken this suspension action during previous debt limit impasses. By law, the G-Fund will make whole once again once the debt limit is increased. Federal retirees and employees will be unaffected by this action. Right now, they'll be unaffected by this action. But you have to wonder whether or not they take this thing past. They take it to a government shutdown. Now, let me say this. If they do that, and they exhaust the funds in the pension fund, which won't take long because it's only about $165 billion or whatever, that they're able to squeeze out of it, what do you think is next? Perhaps employee pension funds? Perhaps 401ks. Clinton talked about it in the 90s. Roosevelt confiscated the gold in 33. Why wouldn't there be a move to do something like that right now? How much did they say there's in 401ks right now in the United States? Like $4 trillion or something? It's something staggering. Yes, my friends, the government needs you. So this is what we're going to do. And let me do it in my best Barack voice. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. What I want to do is I'm going to take your money, and in return, we're going to give you treasuries that you'll end up making more money in the long run. But understand, this is not taking your money. We're simply giving you treasuries in exchange, which, by the way, folks, that is the best, most safe and secure investment in the world today. Oh, Timmy, this ain't out of the realm of possibility, is it?
Oh, no. And you got the dramatic pauses down there. Really good there, Barack.
Yeah, thanks. I listened to him enough. Ugh. But, I mean, in all seriousness, folks, this is stuff that you have to prepare for. Whether or not, Oh, a couple of shotgun fire. Ooh, a little late for that. But anyway, this is stuff that you have to prepare for, because if you don't and you get caught with your pants down, you're going to be in a whole heap of trouble. I know a lot of people that I work with that have pulled all their money out. And you don't have to just pull your money out through, especially with 401ks, you don't have to pull your money out directly and take the penalty. A lot of companies, if you have a 401k, offer loans against your 401k where you can pull it out and just pay it back, so you don't have the penalty. That's what a lot of people are doing to prepare right now, I'll tell you what. And I don't think it's that stupid. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, there's a little tidbit of information. Citizens Against Senseless Violence is going door to door and asking supporters of gun control legislation to join the movement by putting signs in front of their homes letting everybody know that they proudly live in a gun-free zone. How well do you think that's going over, Tim?
Yeah, you know damn well they're not. They're probably closing the door in their face.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't. I can't see him doing this. You know that paper that published all the gun owners in New York?
Yeah.
They took the list down because they're afraid they're going to get sued now because of all the break-ins that are occurring in homes that don't have guns.
They ought to get sued. For crying out loud, that was irresponsible journalism.
Very.
If you can even call it journalism.
Why you need them. That should tell you why you need your guns. Thank you, newspaper.
And when you've got that sign in your yard, I mean, for crying out loud, that just makes you a target, you know?
Yeah. The sign itself says, Citizens Against Senseless Violence. This home is proudly gun-free.
Yep. Come on in.
Yeah.
I ain't got nothing to protect myself with. Come on in. And the other thing is, it denotes for the police the people to go pick up maybe. You know, it's like, okay, these people possibly have guns. Maybe you want to look at this house.
Come on in, rape my wife, rape my daughter, shoot my kid, take all my money, take my food. Hell, you can even have my house. I don't have a gun because I'm an idiot.
And safe, too, by the way. I mean, they must feel real safe about that. So, I mean, this is all things, folks, that you need to pay attention to. You have to understand that there are ways you can prepare for this. And it's not going to get any better. It's going to get a lot worse. So just stay calm, stay cool, keep a steady hand. Don't freak out. Don't panic. There's nothing to panic about. If anything, you should feel empowered. I've said this before. I'll say it again. We've got them on the ropes.
Yeah.
May not feel like it. You may feel pressure. You may feel a little bit of fear. Don't fear. Don't fear this. The reason why they're doing this and the reason why they're spinning the narratives is because they know they only have a limited time to do it. People are waking up faster than they ever thought they would.
Yeah.
And as evidenced by, like, for example, Tim, that North Carolina sheriff's meeting where they had just a tremendous turnout.
Mm-hmm. But, you know, the other thing to think about is what happens when you've got a wild animal caged in a corner? You know, and that's essentially what we have here right now. And I don't for 1 minute think they don't have a backup plan. And because that's part of, you know, that's business for them. These people are highfalutin business people, you know, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, people like that. You know, they're used to having, you know, plan A, B, C. You know, if A doesn't go, they've got B, they've got C. And I'm certain these folks have it too. You know, and I think the Waco analogy is very chilling. You know, that's probably one of their plans farther down the line. But if they don't get what they want, they will go to plan C or plan D. Believe me, they are backed up. Because, again, it's a wild animal in a corner. And you're right, Joe. We've got them on the run. But do you think they're ever going to give up? I don't think they'll ever give this up. I honestly don't.
Yeah. No, you're right. And, you know, one of those ways they do that, Timmy, is with drones.
Oh, sure. That was a horrible thing.
But I've got some tech news for you, folks, from Discovery.com. Stealth hoodie hides wearers from drones. Surveillance cameras are ubiquitous, especially in the UK and in the United States. Congress has already approved the use of drones for domestic surveillance. Then there's the Stingray tool used by the FBI to track cell phones. It's enough to make even those who've got nothing to hide feel nervous. New York-based artist Adam Harvey doesn't like it one bit, so he's taken it upon himself to design anti-surveillance clothing to foil government snoopers. So, for example, an invisibility cloak for heat. Harvey's been looking at the effects of such surveillance on culture for some time. Last year, he designed a kind of face makeup called CV Dazzle to avert facial recognition software. In the spirit of fooling cameras and messing with surveillance, Harvey has now come out in a set of hoodies and scarves that block thermal radiation from the infrared scanners of drones. Wearing the fabric would make that part of the body look black to a drone, so the image would appear like disembodied legs. He also designed a pouch for cell phones that shield them from trackers by blocking the radio signals the phone emits. For those airport x-ray machines, he has a shirt with a printed design that blocks the radiation from one's heart. Isn't that interesting, boys?
Oh, he's going to make some money.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't imagine why he wouldn't. And I mean, who wouldn't want to take advantage of technology like that? Oh, now what are you going to do? You're going to outlaw that? Mm-hmm. You're going to tell us what we can and can't wear now?
You know, it's something else that I worry about real quick, and I hate to throw this out, but, you know, when they do come for people, it's going to be people like us. It's going to be people that have been in the truth movement speaking the loudest, because they're the ones that are going to want to mute right away. And we've already had a number of attacks. Folks already know it. You know, our archives were blocked this week. You know, the broadcast has been blocked regionally now all over the country. Our tech guys been able to stop them, you know, at every corner, but now they've taken a new tactic. And, you know, I think I worry for, you know, the owner, Jimmy. They'll come to his house. Got to shut this down, sir. You know, they'll come for you, come for me, come for Popeye, whoever. But I think those are the voices they're going to want to silence first.
No, I agree with you, buddy, but that doesn't mean that we stop. As a matter of fact, it makes me press harder and harder.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Yep.
You know, and hats off to Jimmy for running this operation. So.
Absolutely, yeah. I couldn't do it without him. And, folks, we can't do it without you as well. You have to get out and get active. If you can't get active, then hit that chip-in banner on Orion Talk Radio and help us because, you know, the more money that we get through donations, the more activism that we can help promote. Things like perhaps buying a billboard on an interstate, you know, getting billboard space.
Yeah.
Or bus stops, you know, putting signs on a bus stop. There's so many things we can do. So if you can't get active by going out there and doing it, then get active. If you have any extra spare change or anything like that, hit that chip-in banner and help us. You know, part of the chip-in funds actually went towards printing out flyers and stuff to hand out during the protests. And that's the important thing. That's what you do. So if you can't do it, we'll get out there and do it. John, quickly, 30 seconds.
Tell people about us. Like Joe said, when you guys go to those Tea Party protests or whatever, take a bunch of flyers with us and tell them about Orion Talk Radio. Tell them about the Freedom Link so we can help you get the word out.
Amen to that, brother. We are really at a precipice in this country, folks. And I can't stress it enough. Don't sit on the sidelines now. Time to get in the game, baby. Folks, we'll be back Sunday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern. Stay tuned for Down the Rabbit Hole with Popeye coming up after the news. His guest, Dr. Jason Pujo. Have a good night, everybody. God bless you.